Scrum is the most used Agile methodology, and its simplicity makes it an excellent introduction to Agile Project Management. The Scrum methodology was created by Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland, who currently run Scrum.org and Scrum Inc, respectively. However, Scrum derives from a 1986 Harvard Business Review article called The New Product Development Game by Hirotaka Takeuchi and Ikejiro Nonaka. In it, a single cross-functional team moves the process through a series of overlapping phases. As they do so, they pass the product back and forth through a number of iterations. The name Scrum derives from the rugby metaphor that they used. Takeuchi and Nonaka argued that their process would increase the speed and flexibility of new product development. And Schwaber and Sutherland adopted many of their ideas, which they published in 1995. In 2001, they were among the signatories of the Agile Manifesto. The Scrum Team. Schwaber and Sutherland define 3 roles that make up a Scrum team. These are the roles of the development team, the product owner, and the Scrum Master, and we'll take a look at each in turn. The development team. These are the engineers who build the product or products. The team is self-organizing and self-managing and often cross-functional so that it can tackle the entire process within the one team. The product owner. The product owner is a single individual who focuses on the needs of the customers, the users, and other stakeholders. Their job is to understand what these stakeholders want and need, and to turn them into functional specifications for the work that the development team needs to do in the form of user stories. The Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is a single individual who focuses on the needs of the Scrum team. The Scrum Master facilitates the Scrum process and manages the 5 Scrum events to deliver the project as effectively and efficiently as possible. They are the source of knowledge and advice on the Scrum process, and also the person who will solve managerial and process-related problems. So let's now look at the Scrum process. The Scrum process begins with the product backlog, the first of 3 Scrum artifacts. This is an ordered list of the work that the development team needs to carry out to develop or improve the product or products that they're working on. As a result, the team will commit to a product goal, the first of the 3 Scrum commitments. Sprint planning is the first of 5 Scrum events. It initiates the sprint, the heartbeat of the Scrum process. The output from sprint planning is a sprint backlog, which is the second of our 3 Scrum artifacts. From this, the team commits to the sprint goal, the second of our 3 Scrum commitments. In sprint planning, the team will answer questions like, why will this sprint be valuable? That is, what is the sprint goal? And what can we deliver in this sprint? That is, which elements of the product backlog should we draw down into the sprint backlog? And how will we do our work to meet our definition of done? Typically, sprint planning meetings are time-boxed, often at 2 hours. The sprint itself is the second Scrum event. It is a fixed length or time-boxed period of work for the development team. Outside of Scrum, this is normally known as an iteration. Most commonly, a sprint will be 2 weeks, and its outcome is the delivery of an increment, the third of our 3 Scrum artifacts. During a sprint, the team will hold daily scrums, the third type of Scrum event. At the Scrum, usually a morning stand-up, they'll examine their progress towards the product goal. Typically, daily scrums are time-boxed at around 15 minutes and are held at the same time and same place every day. At the end of a sprint, but before the development team can declare that an increment is done, they need to expose it to scrutiny by their users, their customers, their stakeholders. They do this at a Scrum event known as a sprint review, also sometimes called a showcase. The purpose of a sprint review is to determine whether an increment meets the definition of done, the third Scrum commitment. The definition of done is a checklist of criteria that an increment must meet to satisfy the user's requirements and therefore considered to be usable. At the sprint review, the Scrum team and their stakeholders will collectively determine whether the development team need to make any further adaptations to the increment in a future sprint. The sprint review is also an opportunity to discuss progress, review the product backlog, and determine the next set of priorities. Typically, sprint reviews are time-boxed at around an hour. Once the Scrum team has delivered their increment, they will meet to discuss their work together. This is the fifth Scrum event, and it's called a sprint retrospective. Sprint retrospectives involve the whole Scrum team, but only the Scrum team. They use it to consider the ways that they can work together even more effectively and even more efficiently in the next sprint. The discussion needs to include things like team dynamics, individual performance, development and management processes, the tools and methods that they use, and critically, they need to work to an outcome where they have a set of tangible actions that they can take to improve their process in the next sprint. Typically, sprint retrospectives are time-boxed at around an hour. By the way, you may wonder why I've been talking about around an hour or around 2 hours rather than an hour or 2 hours. And that's because for me, hour or 2 hour meetings are not good practice, because if you have two back-to-back hour-long meetings, you have no time in between to get from one to another, or indeed to reflect on what you've learned in the previous meeting and prepare for the next. I prefer 50 or 55-minute meetings, or 1 hour and 50-minute meetings, so that you have the time at the end of a meeting and before the next. The Scrum framework is based on a number of carefully considered underlying principles. So let's take a look at what they are. The two bases of Scrum are lean thinking and empiricism. Lean thinking is a principle which places a strong focus on what is essential and another equal focus on eliminating waste. Empiricism is the principle that we can only really rely on information that we gather from experience or direct observation. Scrum offers us 3 pillars of empiricism that we can see in the Scrum events. The first is transparency. All work must be visible to the whole Scrum team and their stakeholders. This allows anyone to inspect, to understand, and to critique the work that the team is doing. So inspection is the second pillar. We must inspect all the work that we do, and we must inspect it often. Only this will allow us to detect problems and to detect them early. And when we detect a problem, it allows us to adapt accordingly. So the third pillar is adaptation. If we find problems, or if we deviate from our sprint goal or our product goal, then we need to adapt accordingly. And of course, the sooner we make these changes, the better. And finally, under principles, Scrum encourages its team members to adopt and work to 5 values. The first is commitment to achieving the product goal and the sprint goals, and to supporting one another in doing so. The second is focus on the work that the team needs to do to meet each sprint goal in the most effective and efficient manner. The third is openness openness about the work that we're doing, and an openness to feedback and critique and challenge. Without this openness, how can we have the honest conversations that are going to improve the work that we do and spot problems early? The fourth value is respect. Respect for individuals, respect for their capabilities, and respect for their ability to focus on the work that they are doing to contribute to the current sprint. The fifth value is courage, the courage to do what is right rather than what is expedient. And also the courage to tackle difficult problems, to pursue the awkward questions, and to take on the toughest of challenges. Finally, let's talk briefly about Scrum learning and certification. The two principal organisations are the Scrum Alliance and Scrum.org. Each one has its own Scrum certification courses and exams and qualifications. The Scrum Alliance offers 17 certifications in 5 tracks. The Scrum Master track has 3 tiers of Scrum Master certification, starting with CSM, Certified Scrum Master. The Product Owner track has 3 tiers of Product Owner certification, starting with CSPO, Certified Scrum Product Owner. The Developer track has 3 tiers of Developer certification, starting with CSD, Certified Scrum Developer. The Agile Leadership track has 4 tiers of Agile Leadership certification, starting with CAL-E, Certified Agile Leadership Essentials. And there are 4 tiers of Coaching and Training certification, starting with CTC, Certified Team Coach. The entry point to all of this for project managers is CSM, Certified Scrum Master. Scrum.org offers 13 certifications. There are 4 main tracks and 4 additional certifications. The Scrum Master track has 3 tiers of Scrum Master certification, starting with PSM I, Professional Scrum Master 1. The Product Owner track has 3 tiers of Product Owner certification, starting with PSPO 1 or Professional Scrum Product Owner 1. The Developer track has 1 tier of Developer certification, PSD or Professional Scrum Development. And the Agile Leadership track has 2 tiers of Agile Leadership certification, starting with PAL, Professional Agile Leadership. There are also 4 special topic certifications: SPS, or Scaled Professional Scrum, PSK, Professional Scrum with Kanban, PSU, Professional Scrum with User Experience, and PSFS, Professional Scrum Facilitation Skills. The entry point for project managers here is PSM I, or Professional Scrum Master 1. I'll put links to the courses I recommend and a range of other resources in the description. If you are a project manager with no experience of Agile project management, then I recommend 2 things. First, you engage with and start to learn about Agile project management. And secondly, that learning about Scrum formally is a great place to start. Please do give this video a like if you've enjoyed it or learned from it. I'll be making loads more great project management videos for you, so please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any of them. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.